We have joining us Raghav Chadha, AAP MLA and spokesperson for the party. We have Sheelkant Sharma, former Secretary General of SAARC and former diplomat. We have Kalyani Unkule, the Director of International Affairs and Global Initiatives at the Jindal Global University, and Mr. Nambiar, who is a political analyst who supports the BJP. Raghav Chadha, first to you. AAP is crying foul here that the Chief Minister and the Deputy Chief Minister are not going to be at the school visit. Certainly, if the visit goes ahead without them, eyebrows will be raised. But how do we know that they were supposed to be there in the first place at all?
Well, first of all, it's a big honor, it's a big achievement for the Aam Aadmi Party's development model that the First Lady and the US administration have chosen to come and visit a Delhi government-run school and in particular examine the happiness curriculum, which has received global headlines in the last 1 year. Having said that, there has been, it appears, a political conspiracy. It smacks of narrow-mindedness as well as insecurities on the part of our political adversaries, that they have sort of influenced the decisions of the US administration and ensured that the Honorable Chief Minister and the Deputy Chief Minister are not invited for an event like this. The US administration has chosen a government school, not the Kendriya Vidyalayas which are run by the central government, not the MCD run schools in Delhi, not a private school in Delhi, but in particular a Delhi government run school to examine the happiness curriculum. However, having said that, we are magnanimous people, we are large-hearted people. As long as our education initiative receive global acclaim and India shines in the world, we are absolutely elated with joy and happy and have no hard feelings.
You've raised some strong charges here. You've said this is narrow-mindedness on the part of the government. You've called them petty. But again, my question is, how do we even know if the Chief Minister and the Deputy Chief Minister were supposed to be there in the first place? Only then we can say, is any of this true, if it is true that their names have been taken off?
Well, it is your channel along with every other channel and every newspaper in the city that attributed it to the sources in the US administration as well as in the Union of India.
Surely you're the spokesperson for the party. You would have an invitation, you would have
to meet as well as... No, of course.
When they pick the school, they must go through you. They must go through the AAP party.
I'm getting this echo. If you could kindly get... Could you kindly get this corrected, please?
All right. While we try and fix that...
No, of course, there have been correspondences. There have been a correspondence between the government of Delhi as well as the US Embassy regarding this. The correspondence was going on for quite some time. In fact, the correspondence was going on prior to the elections, much before the 8th of Feb when Delhi went to polls. And it was in process and the planning was going on, and suddenly we received this information that the elected head of the state, the elected Chief Minister of Delhi, who is the head of the political executive, has been barred from participating in an event like this. But let me say this in no uncertain terms, Sarah, that we have no hard feelings. I mean, we did certainly think that enmity, animosity will subside, will finish once the elections conclude. And in the spirit of federalism, in the spirit of upholding the democratic values of India, it was, I would say, important that the persons responsible for bringing this revolution in the education sector in Delhi, bringing curriculums like happiness curriculum, which are receiving global acclaim, should be present. And it does certainly smacks of political conspiracy. Narrow-mindedness and above all the inability to share the limelight with somebody else.
Arvind Kejriwal made that famous speech at his swearing-in, his third swearing-in, where he said, look, the past is the past. They're willing to move on. Horrible things were said specifically about him. He was even called a terrorist, a three-time Chief Minister being called a terrorist by BJP leaders. He said he's willing to forgive and forget and let's move on for the betterment of Delhi. Now AAP is saying this. The BJP is not ready to do that.
I think Raghav and Aam Aadmi Party is still not realized that Delhi elections are over. Now the government is in place. and the external affairs of this country is handled by the Union Government of India, not by any local government or a state government. And if you even understand this much, and even in your initial comment, you said none of the chief ministers, whether it is in UP or in Gujarat where the real action is going to happen, none of these places, none of the chief ministers were invited or even a part of that any of the Trump visit activity. Where is the question of inviting the first lady is going, the chief minister of Delhi needs to be there, or the education minister needs to be there? I don't think so. It is a very, very childish.
An initiative of the AAP. It's a brainwave. It's the brainchild of the deputy chief minister, who was the education minister.
May I ask you then, if the cricket stadium in Ahmedabad is going to host the Trump, so that means the BCCI president of the cricket president,
according to Donald Trump, everybody has to be there. Between 7 to 10 million people are going to be expected.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Every BCCI official will probably have to be roped in.
What is the idea of that? If the first lady wanted to go to a place and they have chosen to be there in an educational institution, that does not mean the minister of the state needs to be there. I think it's a very, very childish argument at this hour. I think AAP has still not been able to come out of that, making every thing as a political conspiracy and scoring a point. But I think in this case, I think they should be on a back foot. This is not a thing which needs to be politicized or talked about.
Is it not interesting that in this high profile visit they have picked a Delhi government school, because it comes on the heels of an ugly row during the election campaign where the BJP posted videos that they said expose the poor state of schools managed by the Arvind Kejriwal government, and now you have it on this big visit, clearly a huge shot in the arm for the Modi government. Voila, the schools that Melania Trump, the first lady, is going to visit is in AAP government school.
But Sarah, Delhi is in India. Delhi is the capital of India. How does it matter that
if
she is going to
so the BJP recognizes that our government's education plan has transformed Delhi government.
I don't think it has no relevance. It is a very, very childish discussion. Even the national media is talking about, and the AAP is trying to score a point out of it. It's absolutely childish. It's a Ministry of External Affairs and the Trump administration, both the government decides what is the kind of a protocol needs to be followed. I think if the first lady wanted to visit one of those schools, if they have chosen an X school, you can take a credit on it. I don't think that if the president of America is visiting an X place, anybody needs to take a credit for it. The nation will take the credit for it. Once you are a selected government, you better start governing the state, but don't try to score a point in everything.
Okay.
I think the elections are over. Let's get on to the governance.
That decides whether or not a chief minister accompanies a visiting official like the first lady when she's going to a government school in Delhi?
Well, the program of a visiting dignitary, even at the head of state level, is determined by the protocol of the Ministry of External Affairs with the approval of the Prime Minister's office. And then you see, if there is a program which is charted out for the visiting like First Lady, the US Embassy is very much in the picture.
No, you said it's determined by the External Affairs Ministry, approved by the centre. But who, or is it what Raghav Chadha was saying, that the US administration chooses the schedule and where the First Lady will visit?
It is the US Embassy which might have suggested it to the White House that when the First Lady is here, she could visit a place like this, because that's a kind of an acclaim for the institution which is suggested, the kind of the good work it is done, and then her visit might be good. So it's a kind of it's a very natural process, and that then is included in the protocol in the program of the high level visit. So there is no need for any extra burden on this. I find it a celebrity kind of once something which is so high profile, to pick up small points about it and to to raise a furor it's just to avoid that only the whole protocol system has been devised, so that there is certain steps which are there. So it is according to that protocol. There is no other factor.
Yes,
and it is to the credit of that school where the...
Sorry, so you're saying there is a protocol involved, but the question now is that were Manish Sisodia and Arvind Kejriwal on the list officially, and then they have been removed? If so, then the story then is on whose who petitioned that they be removed? Ms. Onkole, anyway, are these things released open to the public when you have dignitaries like US President and First Lady visiting? Do we know what their schedule is, what the plan is? Is it all put out in the open early enough, like 48 hours before the visit?
Sarah, I think, I don't think that is quite the case. In fact, as late as this morning, we were hearing that there is a strong likelihood that a number of items on the schedule could be moved around. Also, I do believe that given the duration of the visit, and if I look at the already cluttered field of issues, and if I look at the members of the delegation who range from everything from cybersecurity to energy security to trade to defense acquisitions, then for a 2-day visit, I would say that that's quite a cluttered field of issues. And in that sense, I mean, the more focused things are, the better is the outcome.
And can you come in on who you think actually is the final decider on where to visit? Like, who would have picked the school? Would it have been the US administration? Because the contention is that this is an AAP-run school, not, as Raghav Chadha was saying, a central government run school. So would it have been the US administration that picked it, or is it the MEA? And then it was cleared by the centre, because if that is the case, then it really runs in the face of what Raghav Chadha is claiming, because Raghav Chadha says it's the centre is being petty, it is being narrow-minded, it is, you know, not moving on from the bitter loss that they faced in these elections.
That was a question for me.
Yeah.
So I think that the final clearance would have come from the US Embassy. I do think that...
And the original suggestion.
I do think what you said earlier is the fact that it is a Delhi government project that's being showcased is quite vital here. And I think at some point we have to just let the work and the projects do the talking and not jostle for credit.
All right, Raghav Chadha, last word to you then. Is it time not to jostle for credit?
Look, first of all, I said this at the outset that it's not about taking credit. As long as, you know, India shines in the world, we are happy. We are happy to be part of that small story, and we are elated with joy that Delhi government-run school has been chosen by the US administration. But having said that, some people made comments regarding the protocol. I just wish to address those points. Number one, if the First Lady and the US administration choose to visit the government school, a Delhi government-run school, you surely would think that protocol demands that the elected executive head, the elected chief minister should be there to escort the First Lady and not some junior bureaucrat in the government of Delhi, number one. Number two, there are 4 types of schools that are run in Delhi: the private schools, central government run schools, MCD run schools, and the Delhi government run schools. The US administration, the First Lady, they haven't chosen the first 3. They've chosen a Delhi government run school specifically because of the kind of work that the government of Aam Aadmi Party has done over the last 5 years. And lastly, when somebody talks about chief ministers of other states not being involved in the programs, let me say this, that whether it's Gujarat or whether it's Uttar Pradesh, the US administration hasn't chosen a hospital or a school of that particular state to be visited and examined. They have specifically chosen something in Delhi, and therefore it certainly warrants that the elected chief minister, the education minister, do accompany the First Lady, and you know, I think protocol demands that they accompany the First Lady on a visit. Having said that, if the MEA, as all of you have pointed out, which everyone knows that MEA happens to be the agency along with the Prime Minister's office that decides on the nitty-gritties of all those things, have chosen in their wisdom that they do not wish to invite the chief minister, do not wish to have the deputy chief minister who looks after the education portfolio on such an important visit, then I'm pretty sure they may have their own very important reasons for this. To me, it smacks of a political conspiracy, narrow-mindedness, and the inability to share the limelight with anyone else.
Okay, I want to just quickly shift focus for a second. Mr. Shilkant Sharma, your response, isn't it ironic, or many would point out it's rich with irony, that the US officials are saying that Donald Trump will be raising the issue of Kashmir, NRC, CAA, and specifically the issue of religious freedom in both his public remarks and certainly in private, because as a quote that the official gave was that the religious freedom issue is an extremely important one to this administration. Given the statements that we've heard from Donald Trump himself about certain religious groups in the US and internationally, many are pointing out there's an irony in this.
Well, again, just now a previous speaker mentioned that the visit is very short, just 36 hours, and there is a whole list of programs. So, in that, again, the time for dialogue and discussion is limited. So, the focus would be on what they would, work out and achieve, and to broaden that focus to include other issues. Maybe the State Department or senior official in the US government might have given these ideas, but we have seen for the last 3 years, when President Trump visits any place, it is he who decides what he takes from what these advisors suggest, and he then he chooses, he picks, So it is premature on the part of us to prejudge how it will unfurl, how the visit will go about it.
Correct, certainly, because Donald Trump is not known to stick to the script. But Ms. Unkhele, if you can come in over here, a lot on the agenda, a lot at stake, the clock is ticking, it's a very short visit. In the middle of this already, one can see the potential problem of someone with a record like Donald Trump for a White House under the Trump administration to say that they're going to be raising the issue of religious freedoms in India.
I think there are three things going on here, Sarah. First is it's the art of the deal guy who's trying to up the ante and put some pressure so that he begins his negotiations from a position of strength. The second thing going on here is we cannot expect any head of state to align themselves completely with the ruling dispensation or the party in power. And so this could be Trump's way of making a nod to segments of the political opposition in India. And the third thing is, I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with the heads of two leading democracies in the world exchanging notes on the state of minority rights or the freedoms, the state of freedoms of citizens in both countries, which is why I think I would personally like to see Prime Minister Modi express concern over why President Trump is using the platform of his re-election campaign to target the future of reproductive rights of women in the United States, for instance.
Good point. Well, will it play out that way? Unclear right now, but certainly we're going to be many discussions, many bulletins on this over the next 48 hours and even after, I predict. Thank you all. Thank you all for joining us tonight. Good night.